Welcome, everybody. Appreciate you joining us today. I am Jeff Finn, CEO at RealNex, and here with Tim Cray, our lead developer, who's done another incredible amount of work this past month. Not slowing down at all for summer. I don't think his team rests much, but they've built some incredible new tools for you to take a look at. Really excited about what's been done and what's to come. So I'm going to turn the show over to Tim. If you have questions along the way, please use the question feature on the right of your screen, queue them up, and at the back end of the webinar, I will review them with Tim and hopefully answer all the questions that you've got. And I hope you love what you're about to see. So Tim, let me turn this over to you and you'll be good to go.
All right.
There you go.
Let me know when you can see my screen, will you, Jeff?
What's up?
Did it come up?
Yes, you're good.
Great. Hi, everybody. Man, I see some really old names on this list. Guys who have been with me for 20 years or more. I got some really cool stuff to show you. I'm really excited about it. I'm going to start with something that we released last week and then something that we released this week in the CRM. It's pretty revolutionary. So last week, what I did was come up with a way to help you navigate when you're in an edit form. So for example, if I load up this record here, this is what we call a details screen where you can edit information. But there was no way to navigate this screen. So I added navigation. It's not obvious where it is. If you can see my mouse cursor, I'm up at the top right corner where it says 3 of 45. And there's a little button with 3 bars on it. When you click that, it brings up a panel that you can use to navigate in the details screen. So I can see the 45 people here, and I can move to any one of them just by clicking them. That's available in all the different tables now. You just have to open it up by clicking this little button, and then you can either have it float. I like to lock it on the side of the screen, but you can do it either way. If you like to float it, you have a big monitor, you can put it over to the side and use it to navigate things. Another thing that we did is allow you to close certain parts of the screen. So for example, if I had a smaller monitor, like I was on a tablet, and I was trying to update, say, the user fields for each of these records as I'm going through, you can see that the user fields are there, and this is not a tablet, so this is a computer monitor, but the user fields are way down here, so it's hard to get to them. What you can do is you can close as many of these as you want by clicking the little arrows at the top, and you can even close up the contact section if you want to, make it smaller. That brings the user fields into view, as you can see now. And when you change screens, I remember the settings. So I don't open up those tabs like I used to. They stay closed now as you move through the screens. Another thing that you can do, let me go to production. I was in staging. Production, that's what you guys use, the live version of the software. I'm going to open it up so I can see 90 records at a time. At the very bottom of the screen, where it tells you how many records you have, it also tells you how many you can see. The more you see at a time, the slower it gets because it's got to load all of the information. But when you're dealing with a lot of records and you're trying to edit them all, or you're trying to tag them, you can change this and load it and then do what you want to do, and then you can change it back so it isn't quite as slow. Going back into a record again, and over here on the left side, let's see if I've got Jonathan in here, one of my fake people that I use. So the search window up here at the top is just a way to quickly search however many records you have loaded, and you can click your client. As I said, you can close certain tabs if you want to. I have groups closed right now, and I have the contact closed. Can open them back up by clicking it. And these other windows can be closed, and they'll, as I said before, they'll remember your settings. Even if you quit and come back tomorrow, they'll still remember your settings. So it's really handy when you're doing a lot of work on a certain section, like tenants for lease, and you want to update them all. Works really well because it doesn't open back up. Something that I added this week, which is really one of the best things I think I've done ever as far as the CRM goes, is what we call a split view. The split view is available from the main screen or from the details screen. You'll notice up here in the top right-hand corner where it says 62 of 83 records, I have that little button for the navigation panel. I also have one for split screen. I'm not going to access it from here because I want to show you another place where you can get it, but you can click this and it'll automatically jump to split screen. I'm going to go back to the main window where I have 3 different views I can look at. We have a tile view, we have a list view, and they're right here on the top left if you can see my mouse or my cursor moving around. This is the tile view, this is the list view, and then we have a map view. This is a standard that you've always seen. What I did this week is I memorized your last view. So if you were to change views, let's say that you don't like the tile view, but you prefer the list view. If you change to the list view, when you come back to the database or when you come back tomorrow after you've closed, I'll remember the setting you have. I'll have the same fields you had set up. I'll have the same view set up. Just started doing that, as I said, on Monday. It's a nice feature because you're getting to control what you see. The split view is right here on this little arrow, so it's kind of hidden, and you might not have even seen it yet. When you click that, it gives you the details screen along with whatever view you have currently, and I'm in list view, but I could change the list view, and I could make it tile view, or I could make it map view. Whichever view you have over here, you can control what's on this side by just going to those records. So once again, let's say I looked up my friend Jonathan Anderson. And when he comes up, I can see all the fields for him on the right-hand side, like you do here. It remembers what screen. Remember I told you it would remember I was in tenants, and it would remember that I'd closed groups, I'd closed lease and business, and I'd closed Jonathan's name. So that's great because it shows me just what I want to see right here in this section. And as I move through the records, it stays in that view. So one of the things that I like to do is I'll set up a call list for my associates, and I'll tell them to go to the history tab so that when they're making their phone calls and they're going through the list, they're seeing the history of the client right on the right-hand side of the screen. And as they make a call, let's say that Andrew said something to this guy, I'd like to know what he said. Lunch to discuss deal points, set up a tour with Lisa on Wednesday. I can go through all the steps that happened with this particular buyer from the start of when we added him back in 2015 to the database, sent him out our company information, and then found out he was interested in one of our listings. And you can see how it follows all the way up the chain here of him eventually making an offer on the product and then doing a detailed tour. So any of these views will lock, so you can go to whatever one you want and you can read what's going on about the person. Or let's say that I wanted to update office buyers. It's a great way to do it. First thing I'd do is I would pick my columns. I have set up a column for investor needs. If you haven't seen this, it's actually, let me just take a minute to show you how I did that because it's a pretty cool feature. You can design columns easily just by clicking the columns button. So here I've clicked the columns button, and it opens up with a list of whatever columns I've defined in the past. And I can manage those using the Manage button. So if you look here on the Manage button, it brings up the list of all of the different lists that I've saved, and I can make them part of the column button if I want to. So by clicking Manage, it just gives me that list. And in there, I can hit the star, which is sort of like liking something. Hitting the star button is sort of saying, yeah, I want this on my menu. And it adds it to the column button whenever you do that. So if you haven't looked at that yet, click on the columns button. You can edit the list, so you can design lists, you can save them. And then once you get them saved, just go to that Manage dialog that I just showed you, and you'll see all of the saved lists on it. And there'll be a little star next to each list that you've saved. If you check the star, it shows up on the menu. If you don't check it, it doesn't. So this one's not going to show up on the button when I click the column button. It's not starred, but if I click the star, now that one will also show up on that column button for me, so I don't have to go searching for it anymore. Each person on your team can set up their own like list. So there may be 30 different lists, but I only care about 3 of them. I personally can star 3 of them, and those are the 3 that'll show up on the button. You could star different 5, and those would show up for you. So trying to make it work as quickly as we possibly can for each user and not have to go through all of the different steps to load up columns. Same for filters. You can save the filters and you can reload them, and the filters will automatically just load for you without going through all the steps. You can still do the steps, of course, but you don't have to. So for investor needs, I've got a filter set and I've got a list set, and I'm querying for office buyers. It could have been tenants looking for 3,000 to 4,000 square feet. Could be anything you want. You just set up the list, and you can see how this drives you through on the right-hand side with all of the information about the person. The history, for example, that was one I gave you. But I could have also gone to the Profile tab, and from the Profile tab, selected the Investor tab, which is all of the information about their portfolio, what they're looking for, what their needs are. And as I drive through the list, make my phone calls and update my information. It's really a very powerful feature. So that's all in production right now. You can all go and try it, and I think you're going to really love it. It really makes you much more productive. Let's take a look at something I'm working on that's going to release on Monday. It's a pretty simple thing, but it's very powerful. Okay, so for Global Replace, what my goal was is that you would set a query for records that you wanted to update. Like, let's say that you wanted to select out of your contacts 35 people and make them all investors, because those were people that you knew would be interested in purchasing products. You could select the records either by a query or by just hitting the checkbox on the side, like these little checkboxes here. And then you can decide which field you want to query by using Global Replace. That'll bring up a dialog that asks you, do you want to replace the current records you selected, or do you want to replace everything in the query? You pick which one you want to do, and then it gives you an option to select what field you want to replace. So in this case, I want to replace a field called Investor, but it could be any field. You select the field in this drop-down, and you can either select it by finding it or by just typing in the name. And it goes by the name that you have on the screen. So in this case, I've called it Investor. And then that'll give you an option to answer either with a calendar if it's a date, or a number, or if it's characters, you'll be able to type in a value. I just want to make them all yes. I can do as many fields as I want each Global Replace. So I could also say I want to add another field. So during this replace, in the desktop, you have to do them one by one. which is kind of a pain if you want to update 3 or 4 fields at once. You got to do 4 different global replaces. In this, I'll let you pick as many fields. You just keep hitting add and add as many fields as you want. And then when you hit replace, it'll warn you that you're going to be replacing 3 records or however many records there are. Check that number, because if you forget to set a query and you do this and you update your entire database, there's no undo. Really, really pay attention to the number here. And if you see that there's 7,000 records, you probably forgot to do a query. So just be careful. Make sure you pay attention to it. It's also a permission. So if you're on a team, you can decide who has permissions to do a global replace. So in my case, I had 10 agents. I was the only one that could do a global replace because I didn't trust any of them. They would just come to me and say, we need to update these records. And I'd say, great, create a filter and save it. And when it's ready, let me know. And then I'll do the replace for you. So global replace is a pretty cool feature, and it's going to be live on Monday. But I don't know what the date is Monday, but whatever Monday is. Let's take a look at MarketEdge. And I've updated a lot of if you use MarketEdge, it's a way to do proposals, packages, flyers, things that you want to send out to people. And it's part of RealNex, and it's pretty powerful. The cover pages, we have a ton of them. We have landscape and portrait. You can decide which you want, landscape or portrait, and you can change it anytime. And all of these are just cover pages that you can use any of them. We have section pages. Section pages, we have a number of different formats. This particular format lets you put a picture behind the section. And then the actual pages, I think there's 72 different pages that you can add. They're all pre-formatted. You can select the colors yourself, so you can use your company colors. You can add your logo. You can add your disclaimer on it. You can change the look of the page. So I happen to like just a tiny little header and no footer at all, but you have control over that. There's a whole bunch of different formats you can use. So I could do 3 agents with a logo at the top, or 1 agent, a whole bunch of different options you can set up in this thing. Like I said, for me, I like a small header with no footer. And you'll notice that on property photos now, you can add multiple pages. Each page you can format. You can pick the layout of the page, how many photos you want on the page, where you want them. Each photo you can set the size of yourself. So I can just resize it myself to get whatever part of the photo I want to show up on the page. And I can move it around. And that's true for every photo in the system now. You couldn't do that before. I worked pretty hard on the format of the pages, so if you haven't seen this in a while, I think you'll be really pleasantly surprised at how nice the pages look now. All the writing is very clean. All the graphics in here are clean. When we have lists, I did a lot of work making the list look really pretty. You can see these colors are also just, you can set the colors that you want to set. We have a ton of different analysis if you were doing something where you wanted to show analysis information. I know a lot of times packages are just basically flyers and there's not a lot of information on them. But you can see that these look really nice. They're really clean. And again, you don't have to do anything. You just put the information in for the property. I do all of the calculations for you. And these are just some of them that you see on the left-hand side here. There's 72 different pages of stuff you can add in, including things like graphs. And you can do maps. We create the maps for you based on the property location using Google Maps. But you can zoom in and zoom out. You can place things on the map. This is an example of a regional map. I've got an angle you can use. So if you notice, the buildings in this map have depth. They're not just little blocks like all the other maps you see. I don't know if you can see it, but there's shadows. The buildings they're not little boxes. They actually have depth, 3D, so that they look a lot better than the standard maps that you're used to seeing. We include demographics. That's automatic. You don't do anything. You could just include demographics if you want, and we'll get all the demographics for wherever your property is. Those are nice to have in certain situations. And then that's all in production right now. You can use it. What I'm working on in MarketEdge is pretty exciting. We call it Business Map. Business Map lets you put different types of businesses on your map and identify them. So here I'm going to go in and I'm going to say I want to see restaurants, let's say. And then I can search, and it shows me all the restaurants. And I can just click on them to add them to the list. So each one of these I click on just shows up on the map. I can move the block wherever I want to move it on the map. The pointer just follows it around. I can change the information as well. So let's say that I want to make this Broken Yolk Cafe, a little bigger. I can go down here to size, and I can change the size of it, or I can make it smaller. I want to change the padding around it. That means the spaces around it. I really want this one to stand out. I'd like it to be yellow, and so on. So you have all these different things you can do to each one of these balloons, and it remembers that for each one. You can have as many as you want. There's no limit. You can delete them off the map just by clicking them and hitting the delete key, or you can hit the red X over here on the left-hand side and get rid of them. You can also add just blocks yourself that aren't tied to any property. Like these are all tied to a specific property. That's why they have these arrows. But I can go over here to the text button, and I can just add my own text box, and I can put it anywhere I want to put it. So if I'm trying to label something particular, a street, let's say, I could go to the street. I can type in whatever the street is. I don't know what street that is, J Street. I can make it whatever size I want to make it, and it just sort of helps me label things on the map. And you can also highlight things. So I'm going to click the polygon, and in here I'm going to click and highlight this building. So I just click wherever I want to make a turn, make my turn, and then I connect the arrows together, and that forms the square. Then I can change the color of it to whatever color I want to use. So let's make it red. And I can change the inside color as well, either by typing in, or I can just go over here to the little color chart thing and pick colors. You can do as many of those as you want. Just keep drawing boxes around different things. So a lot of control over the business map, and it's any type of business. It doesn't matter. It could be multifamily. It could be anything at all. It's not limited to retail. It's anything you want. And when you're doing a search, you can search for not only business types or certain types of things. You can also just use keywords. So I could say Starbucks or whatever I want to put in here, and it'll pull up a list. And you can add the Starbucks. Then you can do another search for gyms, and you can put all the gyms in. There's no limit to what you can do with it. It's up to you. I hope to release this in the first week of next month. It's almost ready. I have 2 things left to do that are important things to do, but it's very close to being released. and this will just be part of the thing. There's no charge for it. It's just part of the package thing.
Tim, while
The
we're
other
on it,
thing that
before you jump, one of the questions relative to this is, can you move the pin if it's not properly positioned?
yeah, you can move, you can hide or show the pin, you can change the property pin, and you can move the pin. All of the above. So some people, like I've seen some companies put their logo there. Kind of confusing to me, but they like to put their logo where the property is, the subject property. So you can change the pin to a logo or whatever you want. You might have noticed there that the logos came in automatically. We have an API call that we get the logos for you for any business that's recognized, so you don't have to get the logos, but you can. If you don't like the logo we got, or if you pull up a business that just is, we don't know what it is, you can add your own logo to any one of those balloons that you want. That's pretty powerful stuff. It's not in production yet, but I hope to have it first week of next month.
Yeah, and just another question before you move on. It's the same thing for a brochure or flyer. All of the brochure, flyer, offering memorandum, BOVs, it's all the same production engine. So you can include the map if you want to create a four-page brochure that has a cover page, a property description, and that business map. Great, that's your standard brochure.
It's just you just add the tiles that you want.
Yep.
You can add one tile or 72 tiles. It's up to you. Any order you want to add them in, it's up to you. So I've seen people do a one-page flyer with that thing, and I've also seen them do a 2 or 3 page. They don't care about the stats. They add whatever they want to add. It's totally up to you. And when you create them, I'll try to show you what they look like when you create the PDF after I do this. This is the thing I'm working on right now in the CRM that I think will be ready probably second week of August, and it's called Duplicate Checker. I used what I did in the desktop and I'm just making it better. Basically, you do a query in your database for certain records, and the duplicate checker window lets you pick what fields you want to use to say it's a duplicate. So you could pick any fields you want, and you can pick as many as you want. I'll say last name and company. But you could do anything you want. You can go to the tenants, and you can, every field's here, and it's in every database. You can also tell it whether you want to do an exact match or a fuzzy match. Fuzzy is very useful. It removes everything except the characters and numbers. So question marks, commas, periods, that kind of stuff, we just remove it all. So if you did RealNex, comma, LLC, and then another time you did RealNex, LLC, period, those would both match because we'll remove the spaces and the commas and the periods and only count the letters in it, or the numbers if you have numbers in it. So that's a really useful way to find things that you just typed a little bit differently. And you can ignore empty fields if you want to as well. What that does then is runs through your whole database and finds every single record that matches the same last name and the same company. And then it pulls them up in a list. And what's different about this over the desktop is you can declare somebody as the primary. We'll automatically declare the first person as the primary. So if it's truly duplicates, like you did an import accidentally twice and both records are the same, you can just open up this and say go, and we'll merge them all for you without you doing anything. If you've used the desktop, it's a lot more cumbersome to merge things. This is going to be really fast, but if you do have to actually see the records to decide which one is the one you want to keep. You can do that too, but you can do it all at once. You can just say, okay, that's the main one. See if I have one with 3. Here we go. That's the main one, and I only want to merge that one. Leave this guy alone. So I have total control over it. You can also decide if you want to see more fields than this. It might be helpful to me to see more than the last name in the company. So up the top here, where it says fields, I can pick which fields I see when I open up a duplicate. The last name and company is good, but it would also help me to see their email. Or maybe I will also want to see their address, or who knows. You can add as many fields as you want. What happens in that case is when you open up a record, we don't just show you the first two fields that you asked, which was last name and company, but we also show you the other fields that you asked for. That might help you decide whether or not it's a duplicate. So that should be a real hit, because I know a lot of people end up with duplicate records for one reason or another. And when you merge them, we take the record that you declared as the home record, the main record, and we add the information from the other records to it. So for example, if you had 3 copies of Jim Bob, and each of them had history, all the history would move from the other 2 records to the one you're keeping. All of the events would move. All the links would move. Everything moves to the record you keep. So you end up with one record with all the information in it. So it truly is a merge of your duplicate records, and you don't lose anything. And if you're even notes merge, so it's a great function. Jeff, if you want to see if there's questions, I'll see if I can find an example of what the package looks like when you make a PDF.
Perfect. Yeah, there's a question on the columns, and the columns are, you actually can pick from any field in your database to create your column headers. So if you want a table with 3 columns, just pick those 3. If you want it with 100, pick the 100. And the names would be the field name that you've got in your database, which you can modify in the database. So if you wanted to, obviously, so the one question it seems from this is that you can select the columns that you want. So the headers of each row, each column would be what you pick. But if you wanted to say something different, all you need to do is right click on your screen on the field in the database, and you can change the name of the field itself, which would then change the name of the header in the column.
You can change any field in the CRM that you want. Just right click on the field and put in the name you want. That's all you have to do. You can pick any columns that you want, and you can save those lists, as many lists as you like. So once you design a list that you think you're going to use, you save it and you give it a name. And that list is always available. Just click it and the columns all change. So it's unlimited, really. You can do whatever you want to do. And so what we would do typically is we have somebody in our office, it was me, that was computer literate, and I would make the list for my team and just put them into their queue so they automatically had it, because these guys were really good at making money, but they didn't really understand how to make lists and things like that. So anybody in your team can make the list for anybody else if you got somebody who's really good at that. And of course, each broker can do it themselves. Just depends on your level of computer literacy. It's not very hard, though. I mean, try it. I don't think you'll need any help figuring it out. Hit the column button and just hit the buttons in there. I think it's pretty simple. I don't know what PDF this is, but it looks like one of the ones I created from the portal. Can you see it, Jeff?
Yes. Yep.
Not sure what's going on with the internet. So this is just the cover page of it. This is the TOC. You can see that I've completely rewritten the table of contents pages. They're beautiful now. They were really ugly before. This automatically generates. You don't do anything. It's just, you just tell it you want a table of contents. We have 3 different versions you can choose from. This is one of the versions. This is the same thing I was just showing you a minute ago. I probably created this 2 weeks ago, but it's the same stuff you just saw. So you can see how nice it looks. It's easy to read. All of this stuff, you have control over what's in this package. So you decide what pages you want and you don't want. You don't have to do it landscape. You can do it portrait. It's up to you. I just happen to do this one landscape. And I don't know if you're seeing the pages or if this thing's so slow it's not coming across. There's my
That's coming.
this business map. This is just a regular maps, and there's that's a different view of demographics I showed you. We have a couple different views you can use. These are the nice looking reports if you were doing this for an owner or for a tenant and you wanted to give them all the information about their lease or the property. These are all generated for you. You don't need Excel, or you don't even need to know how they're generated. We do it all for you. You just have to put the information in, size of the tenant, and when their lease started and what they're paying, that kind of stuff. And I don't know how long this one is. It probably goes on forever, but we're on page 60 already. So that's about it for my new stuff. I hope that you're enjoying all the things that we're doing to make the product better. We're moving at the speed of light, getting things done, and I think most people don't even know what we've done. There's so many things I've added over the last 3 months. But I hope you're enjoying it, and I certainly thank you for sticking with us all this time while I tried to make the desktop into an online version, which I've done. This online version is better than the desktop. It's got more functionality than the desktop will ever have.
You've done all that and more. It's great. And you snuck in a few things there that you didn't think you'd have. So it was great to see some of the particularly that mapping feature, some of the additional enhancements beyond what most people have seen as just a retail map. To have all of that additional functionality is fantastic. So and Channel, it looks like you've got a question on your CRM. It looks like more of a tech support issue. So if you can put that in through a tech support request ticket, we can handle that. And then on the some of the differences that we've got from build out, there's a question of, are we familiar with build out? Certainly we are. I think we've done and have everything that they do and a whole lot more with the financials included and incorporated. We have the CRM as a basic, the sort of the primary database, the way I would sort of articulate how our workflow works, even though you can work directly within MarketEdge and build everything directly from MarketEdge. But if you use CRM as your foundation of data that you're mining and managing and developing business from, once you find an opportunity to go to market with, you can then publish that data into MarketEdge and enhance it. So if you enhance it and work with it from a marketing standpoint, that won't change your primary database. So changes to the CRM will not modify your flyer or brochure and vice versa. But as you work on the project in MarketEdge, you'll update the marketing materials, and some things do change, and you might want to modify something. For example, if you've got a price, but you might want to go to market with a to be negotiated, you can flexibly manage that. So we have purposefully separated the marketing content from the foundation database, and that's a distinction. So you take your CRM information, you can publish it to MarketEdge, and from MarketEdge or the CRM, you can publish the data to your marketplace once the listing goes live. And that listing information can also then flow through to what we call MP Direct to be hosted and posted on your website as a widget. So you'll have the complete flow through of your property marketing information from your CRM to your MarketEdge to create your marketing and your presentation, to your listing and the hosted listing engine inside of your website. But when you do adjust it in the CRM, it doesn't automatically flow through and make those changes. You would need to make adjustments to any of the marketing. Appreciates Tim for the presentation and all of your time and support. So thanks again, and have a great day.